faucet covers.
Brutal cold will sweep across the middle of the country from the upper Gulf Coast all the way to the U.S.-Canada border. Jim Crisula, CBS News.
New York Mayor Eric Adams is due in court today as federal prosecutors try to dismiss corruption charges against him. CBS's Katrina Kaufman.
The government needs this judge's leave to actually get this case dismissed. So the judge has a lot of authority here, but it is very rare to go against the Justice Department trying to dismiss a case. However, if this judge thinks that it's in the public interest to allow this prosecution to move forward, he could make that decision.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is stepping up his criticism of President Trump after high-level talks between the U.S. and Russia on beginning negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Correspondent Imtiaz Tayyab.
We are seeing a lot of disinformation that is coming from Russia, he said. Unfortunately, President Trump, with all due respect, is living in this disinformation space.
Mr. Trump's media company is suing a Supreme Court justice in Brazil. Here's CBS's Linda Kenyon.
The Trump Media and Technology Group accuses the judge of censoring right-wing voices on social media. Joining in the lawsuit is Rumble, a video platform which, like the president's Truth Social, calls itself a home for free speech. Both companies say the judge is infringing on the First Amendment by ordering Rumble to remove accounts of supporters of former Brazilian President Bolsonaro, who was indicted on charges of trying to overturn his election loss.
Plan reversed to shut down the country's free COVID testing program. CBS's Stacey Lynn.
After the Washington Post reported that the Trump administration was going to shut down covidtest.gov and was looking at the cost to destroy and get rid of tens of millions of tests in the stockpile, it reversed course. According to a statement from the Department of Health and Human Services, the site will remain open for now and the tests will remain in inventory until they expire.
New research from UPenn finds a small number of people vaccinated show signs of fatigue, brain fog, tinnitus, and dizziness. And some of them appear to show distinct biological changes that reawaken Epstein-Barr virus. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Offering small ship experiences with a shore excursion included in every port, and programs designed for cultural enrichment. Learn more at Viking.com.
Right now, get up to a $15 gift card after rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
Right now, get up to a $15 gift card after rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable, a look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in to the Roundtable here on WGNS on this Wednesday morning, and a cold Wednesday morning that it is. As we move along in the month of February, there, of course, no school today due to some weather. And, you know, the folks, tip of the hat to the folks in the street department here in Murfreesboro, also TDOT. They have kind of figured out how to do this with the brine prior to some snow, because the drive into the radio station here this morning was pretty easy, and all the main arteries are certainly passable, but not a big snowstorm, but it is kind of pretty out there this morning. So it is cold, so that is going to be the big issue here over the next several days. Been looking forward to today's show for a while, because when I think of pillars of our community, this gentleman certainly is one of them. And Gordon Ferguson of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital is here today. And Gordon, first of all, thank you for trudging your way in through the snow this morning.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate you having me on this morning. And
I'll just give a shout out to our hospital associates, our nurses and staff for making the trek in this morning. We always worry a little bit when we have events like this that we've got a lot of patients in our hospital that need to be cared for, and a lot of people are coming from outlying areas to work, and we just thank them for being there today as well.
Well, you're a guy who obviously takes a lot of care in what's going on. So how early were you up this morning to check and see what the weather was like, and knowing what your staffing situation was going to be, and talking to department heads, that kind of thing?
I got a few text messages last night, just kind of gauging where we were in terms of staff that may have been worried about not getting in last night, but getting back home this morning. But that went well. I actually checked around 5 o'clock just to see what the conditions were like, and then we had a remote meeting at 6:30 that was already on our schedule, and heard from a few of our physicians kind of what situations were like around where they live. Yeah.
So all is everything is full go at the hospital today.
Full go.
All right.
Full go.
Good deal. You're a guy who doesn't like to make a lot of news, but you made some back in October when you announced that your retirement would be beginning, I will say, in June, and was it one of those where you felt it's about time?
Yes, it certainly was not a decision that was made lightly. I think that the fact that this coming Saturday, I'll be celebrating my 27th year with the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And particularly in my role as the chief executive, which I've been doing this job for about 19 years, I think there comes a time when it's the right thing to let somebody else come in and have different thoughts and ideas about how we should be doing things. Quite honestly, after going through the pandemic, I know that took a lot out of many healthcare workers and across all different professions. And then we had an added bonus within Ascension where last spring we had a cybersecurity attack that went on for several weeks. And again, these type of events do take quite a bit out of you. And I will say I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with the hospital. I'm not leaving completely at the end of June, but we will be naming my successor very shortly and want to help that individual with the transition. And then we've got a capital project that we're going to be starting soon, building out a shelled area of the hospital to expand our OB department, and we'll be doing some fundraising around that project.
Yeah, but you won't be having to put a tie on every morning.
No, sir. That's right. That's right.
And I can imagine doing something as long as you've done it, that going cold turkey, just to turn off the switch completely on one day would almost be worse than going to work every day.
No, that's exactly what my thinking was, and in this job and many others, it's not a 9-to-5 job. You really have to be available at all times because you never know what type of unusual situation might come up. And I think with cell phones and text messages, you never really are able to disconnect unless you go somewhere where you just don't get any cell service. But I think that I've worked all my life, high school onward, and I'm not one to like to sit around much. So
yeah.
This will be a nice transition.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do today is get to know you a little better on a certain level, because we see you at events around town. We see you. I may see you walking through the hospital to go visit with somebody. But how did you get from where you were to where you are today? Where did you grow up? I don't even know that.
Okay. Knoxville is home for me. I was actually born over in Scotland.
Really?
And my dad was a Presbyterian minister. We paid a visit to Knoxville back 1969 and went back to Scotland thinking that was great. We loved the folks in East Tennessee, and about a year later, the church asked my father to come over and be one of their pastors there in Cedar Springs Church in Knoxville. And grew up there, went to high school, University of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at UT, I had my fill of mowing yards and being a chef in one of the restaurants there, and took a job at St. Mary's Hospital as an orderly. We now call that a patient care tech, but it's a very entry-level position. I worked mostly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but some weeknights. And I was majoring in business, but I wasn't sure what exactly I would like to do after graduation. And so I enjoyed the hospital environment, just watching how a lot of different departments work together, and some cases don't work together. But that's where I started speaking with one of the hospital administrators about how he got into the field. At that point, there were no programs in Tennessee that focused on healthcare administration or hospital administration. So I went down to the University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
They had a very good reputation for that particular degree. And so that was around 1982, 84. And I did my residency under a gentleman who had also worked in Knoxville, and he took a job back in Knoxville during my residency. And so in 1986, I followed him up to Baptist Hospital in Knoxville. So it's kind of neat going home. I was single at the time, and I was fortunate enough in my years there to have met my wife, Cindy. She was the hospital's actually first speech-language pathologist. And I remember our first date was the University of Tennessee, Alabama basketball game.
Okay.
And at which time when they were doing the wave back then, and I didn't stand up, and that didn't suit Cindy very well. And she said, well, I didn't know you were a stuffed shirt. So, but that was our first date. And from there we moved to Clarksville, where I was the assistant administrator at the hospital in Clarksville. This was 1990 to 1998. And so, healthcare was very different at that time. The first year that I was working is when the whole reimbursement system for Medicare changed, to where hospitals were not reimbursed as much on costs as they were on a prospective payment system. And hospitals all across the country were needing to really look at their cost structure under this new environment. And it seems like from that point onward, healthcare has been going through a lot of changes. But when I was in Clarksville, we had a shared board member with the hospital there and the hospital here in Murfreesboro. His name is Ben Kimbrough, and a very well-respected banker in Middle Tennessee. And he kept coming back to our board meetings and saying, why can't you all do as well as they do in the hospital in Murfreesboro? And so when I learned that there was a position open here, I submitted my name for consideration. And it was a difficult move for me. Our two boys were born in Clarksville, and had a very good good relationship with my boss, the hospital CEO. But I just felt that Murfreesboro had a lot to offer. It did put us a little bit closer to Knoxville. But it seemed like the hospital here, with its relationship with what was then Baptist Hospital in Nashville and St. Thomas, had a lot of potential. And so we made the move. And again, that was 27 years ago this coming Saturday on the 23rd.
And that was to the hospital over on Highland Avenue.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So one thing that appears to be a common thread, son of a Presbyterian minister, and then a Baptist hospital, and then St. Thomas. So you have been part of the clergy somewhere along the way, all along. But I never knew you grew up in Scotland. So how was that as a young man, having to leave everything you knew and move to Tennessee? And also, I've always heard that East Tennessee and that part of the world are somewhat similar in their geography. And
Yes. I was 9 years old when we came over.
So you're about third grade
for a summer. Yep.
Yeah.
The second day we were in Knoxville, I was so intrigued by the bicycles that had the banana seat and the weird handlebars, and I actually had a wreck that took me to Children's Hospital in Knoxville the first or second day we were here for that summer pulpit exchange. And so it's somewhat ironic that I had a very quick exposure to healthcare in Knoxville. Coming back, I think what made it a lot easier was we already knew a lot of the people connected with the church, and they just gave us a great welcome, and it was a big deal.
And they were going to do everything they could to make your transition good.
Yep. They had a home already set up for us, and what was difficult was just my adjustment to the school system. The school system in Scotland may be different now, but back then was very formal. We had exams. Our teachers wore the black robes, and so when I went to school at Farragut Elementary at the time, my grades just were not very good for that first year as I was making that adjustment. But now it's so different because I've still got an aunt lives there that is 98 years old, but still does email and FaceTime. And so that connection is much closer now. When back then you had to pay a lot of money just to make a phone call.
Oh, yeah. So, and you would do it after a certain time of night where the rates were lower and all that kind of thing. But now that you mentioned, I can hear a little bit of your Scottish accent, just a little bit on certain words every once in a while. But and I was going to ask you about relatives that were over there. Did you stay connected with any other friends that you grew up with that are still in Scotland?
We do. Certainly always at Christmas time with Christmas cards. But my father was an only child, and my mom had one sister. And so I've got a cousin there that we stay in connection with. I'm somewhat sad that I've not been over there for quite a number of years. I was hoping my boys might want to go over there and kind of see where I grew up, but they got so involved in different sports in school that that hasn't happened. But I do keep up with my aunt and my cousin.
Well, I'm glad you do. That's neat, and that's always an area that's on my bucket list of places that I want to go at some time and go visit. So, now when you made the move from Clarksville to Murfreesboro, talk about the process of getting the job here at the old hospital, and what you found when you got here.
It's interesting you should ask that. And this is a really unusual way that I got connected. I certainly knew Art Hastings and a few of the other administrators from our state association meetings, but we got home from church one Sunday, and I had been thinking about making a move. I'd been there 8 years. I was fairly early on in my career, and I opened the newspaper, and there was a classified ad for a vice president of support services on the Sunday newspaper. And I showed it to my wife. I said, well, look at this, because it's not normal for you to find out about a position in healthcare administrations that way. And so I picked up the phone that Monday and inquired a little bit more about the position. We had not been to Murfreesboro except maybe just passing through. And so I decided one Saturday morning to take Cindy and our 2 young boys. We drove down here and just walked through the halls of the hospital, and lo and behold, I ran into Art Hastings. And he said, well, what are you doing here? I said, well, I've kind of looking at this job. So went through the interview process, and it seemed to me a very good fit. I know Mr. Hastings, who has since passed away, was questioning why would I want to make what really was a lateral move. And I just described to him how I felt that Murfreesboro was a place that the culture seemed very good. Again, our boys were in the preschool and early on, so we were just very pleased that we could bring them up. And they went through all the Siegel school system and have done very well since graduating from their college. But yeah, it was very, very comfortable transition moving from Clarksville to Murfreesboro.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Gordon Ferguson is our guest today on the Wednesday Roundtable. We're going to step aside and have more with the CEO of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital right after this on the Roundtable here on WGNS.
Ascension St. Thomas Heart is the leader in Middle Tennessee for heart care, providing the most advanced options, including heart surgery and transplants. Our nationally recognized cardiac team cares for more adult hearts than anyone in the state, from AFib to heart failure, using minimally invasive options when possible to help shorten recovery, making Ascension St. Thomas Heart your first choice for routine heart care and cardiac emergencies. Schedule a heart screening or find a cardiologist at ascension.org/St. Thomas Heart.
Insurance should be simple, not complicated. That's why at Rayburn Insurance, Agent Rick Hull cuts through the jargon and helps you understand your options clearly. He's committed to finding the right coverage that fits your unique needs and budget. Their team has been a trusted partner in the community since 1973. Ready to make insurance easy? Get with Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency. He's ready to help you get the protection you deserve.
First Shot, growing in Christ with life and athletic skills.
So we teach God's Word at everything we do to implant it in them so that they understand that the only way to get through the world is with God on their side.
First Shot founder and executive director Andy Herzer.
Our focus is on our inner city here at Patterson Park.
From academics to athletics, First Shot's focus is toward building a stronger, more courageous spirit to face opportunities and obstacles that our youth confront every day. To find out more about First Shot, go to firstshottn.org.
My grandmother and Ms. Adams were best friends. She said, Betty, you need to come to Adams' place. You'd love it.
We're talking with Betty Kirksey.
They go above and beyond of what their job is. I wish Miss Adams was still living so I could tell her, you were right. It is where I should be, and it's very nice.
I'm Terry Deal. Call me for more information about Adams Place, located at 1927 Memorial Boulevard, across from Walmart.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
Chip Walters here with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. I was named a top 10 agent in the #1 Exit Realty office in America in 2021. The top question I get around town, how's the market? Good question. And the answer's changed a few times this year alone. I'd like to know what you've heard and share some solid data we have. Give me a call and let's have a cup of coffee and take a look at what's happening in your neighborhood. All my contact info is right on my website, choosechip.net. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
This is a paid legal ad. You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
For over 78 years, you've depended on WGNS to learn what's happening around home, and you still do. Sunday of next week, February 23rd, that's the Rutherford County Archaeological Society meeting date. The guest speaker is Dr. Shannon Chappell Hodge. She's an MTSU professor, as well as the chair of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Her topic's going to be the Tennessee heroes of 1846 and the bioarchaeology of the Mexican-American War. Once again, the Rutherford County Archaeological Society meeting is free, and that's Sunday, February 23rd, a week away, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, over at Oakland's Mansion in Manny Hall. Are you new to town and want to learn more about our community? The Rutherford County Historical Society will have a program that's just right for you. It's on Saturday morning from 9 until noon, and it's in a one-room schoolhouse, the old Ransom Schoolhouse. 9 until noon this Saturday, and it is free. Ransom School is at 717 North Academy Street. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
A cold weather advisory goes into effect Thursday morning. We'll see cloudy skies this afternoon with a high into the mid-30s. Tonight, cloudy and a low near 13. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 20.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Take control of your account management and energy consumption with the MyMTE app. Download from the App Store and manage your account, improve your energy habits, and more. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, and the Blue Raider Network. And Gordon Ferguson, the CEO of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, joining us. And we talked about himself getting the job here and coming in at the old hospital over on Highland. And I do have a story for you, Gordon. I don't know if you know this or not, but I was the last patient in the emergency room at the old hospital. I had a kidney stone on that Friday night.
Okay.
And I get over there and all the ambulances are lined up, getting ready to, at midnight, I guess, to start moving patients. And I walk in about, 10:45 maybe, and I had to get an MRI or whatever. But that was my claim to fame with the hospital, was I was the last patient there, and was on the first day, on Monday, that following Monday, I'm going to tell you this on the back end. I got there at 9:30 in the morning to have a kidney stone removed. They finally got me back in day surgery at 8:30 that night.
Wow.
Because more, people were coming in needing to have babies and stuff like that, that I kept getting bumped all day long. But once you got here, how long was it before it was determined that the new building was going to be built? Because that is no overnight process.
No, it's not. It's actually a 10-year process for us. When I first came on board, they had just started doing the foundation work for what was the building that we call the Bell Street building. It is now owned and occupied by MTSU. Mm-hmm. And they had just got the bids back for adding a floor or two onto the original hospital, which was kind of cut up into 4 different buildings, all joined together. And when the cost came back, they were significantly higher than what had been projected. And they really were not going to be adding a lot of beds. They were going to be taking our very small rooms that were in the old hospital and enlarging them. So when we really started looking at it, we started wondering, is that really the right thing to do long term? As you recall, the hospital was surrounded by a historical district, a cemetery, and it was just going to be very difficult to expand it there for the future needs of the community. So that's really what triggered this thought about, well, maybe we need to be doing something at a different location. And there was a time where the thought was, maybe we keep this hospital here, but we open up another location and have 2 different sites. And so we had a lot of different consultants. I think there were 3 or 4 different consulting groups that we worked with to really understand what what would the future health care needs of this community be. And that led to a decision that was made that we needed to do a complete replacement facility. And keep in mind, this is just after we had been given several $1 million for the Bell Street building, and we had the crosswalk over Bell Street. And so it did take a lot of time. At that point in our organization's history, St. Thomas Hospital bought Baptist Hospital, and that came with a pretty hefty price. And then Ascension was actually formed around that time, around 2000, 2001. So there were a lot of things that were going that were not really conducive to us being able to get a lot of capital dollars to do a replacement facility. But we were persistent, and I have to give a lot of credit to the leadership there at that point. Matt Murphy was on our board and played a key role in working with the city of Murfreesboro. They had bought the land for the conference center that ultimately did not get through in its original state. And we worked with the state of Tennessee and said, if we're going to buy this property, we're going to need an interchange off I-24. We talked to the city about having a good access road from the interstate to the hospital, and that we'd like that road to be called Medical Center Parkway. And so we worked with the city manager, the mayor, and at that point, after we bought the property, we worked with a private developer to construct the first medical office building. So that building, which is now the DePaul building, was actually built before we had final approval to build the whole hospital.
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of risks that were being taken. Mark Pirtle, he was the first, I believe, to develop some of the property further down Medical Center.
There were two buildings across the street that are identical that he built.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it seriously did take 10 years from when we actually started this process. And I've got to give a lot of credit also to the Christy Houston Foundation for them stepping up to the plate to help us.
Our buddy Liz Ray called everybody in town.
Yes.
Making sure that that they did their part as well. And we miss her so much every day.
We do.
And
we do.
but you had great people that were the grassroots support of that construction project.
Yes, it was really a team effort, and working on the design of the facility, also working to where we would not be just constricted with the current design. It was designed where it could expand vertically and horizontally.
And you're doing both.
We're doing both. We're doing both. When we originally were doing the final plans, we actually had requested that we could shell floors on the west wing for future expansion. But at that point, Ascension was not a big proponent of shelling in space because there was a lot of speculation that the need for inpatient beds was going to diminish as technology would allow us to do more procedures on an outpatient basis. What I think they were not quite seeing was the fact of our population growth here, where, lo and behold, we did need additional beds. So when we moved, we were licensed for 286 beds. At the old hospital, on any given day, our maximum capacity was about 215 inpatients. And so we had that bump up when we moved. And then, as you know, over the years, we've continued to add on to where today our capacity is right at 418 beds.
Oh, wow. So you've almost doubled the size of the hospital.
Correct.
From where you were at the old hospital.
Correct.
And the most recent addition that you had a ribbon cutting recently for an expansion in the emergency area and were bays for ambulances, correct?
Correct. Yes. As you mentioned, that was our first horizontal expansion where now we can accommodate 12 ambulances under cover. If you remember, the old ambulance entrance on Bell Street, you would kind of dip down, and that when you had bad rains, that area would flood fairly quickly. But this is going to allow much more efficient flow for our EMS partners. And then right above that, we have just opened 18 additional critical care beds, and that will give us a total of 50 intensive care beds.
In the range of services that have come with the new building, I mean, the everything, up to all. Are you all doing some transplants out there? No transplants.
No transplants.
But open heart surgeries.
Right.
Everything up to that.
Just about a year ago, we completed our first open heart surgery patient, and that program has done extremely well. I think it might actually have been 2 years ago. We have 2 really well-trained surgeons and the team of support staff, and that was actually something that we wanted to start providing when we opened up the new hospital, but the powers that be felt that, hey, let's just get the new hospital opened and not be worried about a new service as involved as open heart surgery. But we were patient and we waited to the right time, and now we have done well over 500 cases.
Oh, wow.
And it's just great to have that ability to do that procedure here locally, as opposed to folks having to go to Nashville, and you've got family members that are having to drive back and forth.
What do you feel is because I grew up in Columbia, Tennessee, and that hospital, Murray Regional, served, pretty much every county in the south part of the mid-state. Well, this hospital has a footprint that extends out past the county line as well. What do you all feel is your service area?
It really is the counties that surround Rutherford, mostly to the southeast. Several years ago, we acquired several smaller, what we call regional hospitals in McMinnville, Woodbury, Smithville, all the way over to Sparta. And we are seeing a lot of patient referrals coming from those hospitals in the outlying areas. But we also see a lot of patients coming up here from Tullahoma, from Shelbyville. Again, the I-24 traffic over the years has just increased significantly. And if folks can get off the interstate at Murfreesboro, then I think they feel much better served. And we are just very blessed that we've been able to offer those additional services, and that Ascension has made these capital investments in our hospital.
Those other rural hospitals like in Woodbury and Smithville and those, how important are those? Because you keep hearing stories in certain parts of our state where rural hospitals are closing down, and that has fortunately not been the case in our area.
That's true. We see these hospitals as being vital for the communities that they serve. What has happened in healthcare over the years is that the supply of specialists has made it very difficult for these smaller hospitals to survive. They certainly have got emergency room access there. Our hospital in Woodbury has got a lot of emphasis on behavioral health, particularly for the elderly population. But they just don't have the ability to generate what's needed for a lot of the high-end medical equipment and also the specialists. So they depend a lot on the hospitals that do have those services available.
Yeah, and but they're able to give the basic care in those areas, and then the next step up is moving over here to St. Thomas Rutherford.
Correct.
Now, speaking of expansion, and whether it's not necessarily horizontal or vertically, but into a new building at West Lawn, talk about the idea there of putting a new emergency room, and what could be in the future with that model.
We were actually the first in this state to be licensed as what's called either a micro hospital or a neighborhood hospital. And the model that we use out of West Lawn, that facility has 8 emergency room treatment areas and 8 inpatient beds, plus X-ray and a CT scanner. We've been very pleased with how that hospital has been adopted by our community, particularly those living just west of I-24 in the Blackman area. Currently, we're seeing just over 1,000 patients in the emergency room each month.
Those bicycle wrecks, remember?
Yes. Yes. It just, I think it's all about access. And the inpatient beds, we've not seen quite the utilization there that we had anticipated, but certainly in the emergency room. And we'll be announcing very soon that we're going to be building out the second floor of that facility. Right now, that's just all shell space. But we're going to be establishing a location for St. Thomas Heart there, and then also a cardiac imaging department on the second floor. Still going through the preliminary design and looking at equipment, but that's going to just open up access to, again, folks in that part of our community.
Oh, wow. That is exciting news of what's going to be coming up at West Lawn. We're going to step aside and take a break. Gordon Ferguson of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, the CEO, who is going to start winding down his retirement in June, and more to talk about when we continue here on the Roundtable.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensated for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
Murfreesboro firefighters are going door to door to ensure that everyone is counted in the special census. Every resident means more funding for roads, schools, and emergency services. Up to $3.5 million more each year. So don't wait. Fill out the mailer you received or visit murfreesborocensus.com. That's murfreesborocensus.com. Every name matters, including yours. Help us help Murfreesboro. Fill out your special census form today. murfreesborocensus.com.
This is Pastor Nikki Ajapong, the lead pastor of Holy Hill Chapel in Murfreesboro.
Hear our sermons on WGNS every Sunday night at 7:30.
Our congregation is made up of a variety of nationalities.
Visit holyhillchapeltn.org to hear our podcast.
Mother's Day is the perfect time to come to Bell Jewelers and pick out a very personal piece. At Bell Jewelers, we offer custom engraving, where we can take a sketch or drawing that your child has done, and we can scan it and put it on that piece of jewelry. Having that picture that your child drew enables her to wear the expression of your child's love. Come to Bell Jewelers, Northwest Broad Street, across from Toots.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable here on WGNS. Chip Walters with you. And Gordon Ferguson, the CEO of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, joins us today. And we've talked about the expansion of the hospital, and you touched on a couple of things that you've had to deal with over the last 5 years or so, I can't imagine what the COVID pandemic threw at any healthcare facility, much less a hospital, because, I mean, you all are pretty careful about how you obviously have to be with what you do, but what was the first couple of weeks of that like, trying to, you had to try to figure out, okay, what are the best practices here? How do we, because it was not anything that anyone had ever dealt with before. It was all brand new.
Yeah. No, I think there was certainly a lot of lessons learned from the pandemic, because if you recall, when you first started hearing about it, you just didn't think, well, this probably won't impact us here. Mm-hmm. And then lo and behold, we started seeing it spread fairly rapidly. I remember one of the first things that we did, we set up an incident command where I believe twice a day we'd bring all of our managers together. At that point, the technology for video conferencing was there, but we really didn't use it the way we should have been using it. And so we had to quickly learn how to, what is a Zoom meeting and what's this?
The biggest unintended consequence of COVID was Zoom.
Right. But we had our internal meetings, and then we also had all of our St. Thomas hospitals would get together with our Nashville office. Our Nashville office would be connected with our office in St. Louis. So we were all kind of going through this together. And I think there was just so many unknowns about, what is the best course of treatment. Certainly there was a lot of attention being given to making sure that our associates and our physicians were protected. And that was one of the first challenges, was we were quickly running out of all the protective gear that our staff needed when they were going in to treat these patients. And then the acuity of the patients just went sky high to where we had to take care of a good number of patients in what is our normal recovery area after surgery. Mm. And then you had to deal with staff that would be getting ill. And so you had all these different variables coming to you. We had to report to the state about new cases. And very quickly, we could feel that staff were just getting very fatigued, and that this was not going to be a short-term situation that we were going through. And then we made the very difficult decision of restricting visitors and family members. And to this day, I think our leadership at Ascension sometimes questions, did we make the right decisions there? Because if you had a patient that was nearing that stage of passing away, the best we could do was let that family member look at and communicate with the patient through the window. And I think looking back, maybe we were a little too restrictive there, but we really were just learning as we were going. Yeah,
in those first few days, when how much fear was there there could be, you could see communities wiped out. We just didn't know.
We didn't. And yes, there was a lot of fear. We had to create that environment of kind of humble confidence where our staff would have a degree of assurance that we were doing the right thing on their part. But healthcare workers, and particularly I think nurses and our physicians, have that innate desire to help people, and if there's a problem, they want to fix it. And so they were very dedicated in coming to work, and in many cases working longer hours than usual. I know a lot of our administrative team, it was, we put long days in to begin with, but back then we were there the majority of the time, just making sure that we were handling this well.
And there was no option for those folks to work from home because they had to be there.
Correct.
What came out of what good came out of COVID moving forward in the healthcare world that you see that COVID changed maybe for the better?
I think one thing, it would just maybe in general be a greater appreciation for those that work in healthcare. I think sometimes with the way our society is now is that instant gratification, convenience, that sometimes I think there were situations where our nurses, our physicians were not receiving that appreciation for the hard work that they do. And I think this opened up a lot of eyes into some of the perilous situations that our staff members are sometimes placed in. I think another area is just being prepared. I mean, we had to mobilize, rent equipment, and so I think that there are some learnings there that we've been able to make sure that we've got some extra inventory on hand should a situation like this arise again. And then certainly with communication, and we are doing a lot of meetings virtually that I think has helped in efficiency quite a bit, although there are a lot of times when it really does help to have everybody in the room together.
Yeah, and just as soon as you get kind of on the backside of COVID, as you mentioned, you had to face a cybersecurity threat, which posed a whole different set of issues.
Yes, and this is a situation that didn't just impact us here in Murfreesboro or in Middle Tennessee. This situation actually impacted all of Ascension facilities, and we've become so dependent over the years on the electronic medical record as opposed to the paper charts that we had to really pivot and get everything back on paper. And even though the incident is well behind us, we're still feeling some of the repercussions, particularly related to our billing process and making sure we've got all the records. The paper records now are being scanned.
Having gone through that, there are a lot of folks who listen to this radio station that are independent business people. What advice would you give them if they've not been affected by that? How would you advise them to be prepared?
I think our greatest learning was just to be very wary of any kind of email, text that comes over that just doesn't look quite right. And folks are getting so sophisticated that everything looks legit, and you kind of click, and before you know it, you've allowed some kind of a virus to be introduced into your system. So I think getting with a cybersecurity consultant, making sure that your systems are secure and that staff are trained to see some of the advanced ways that folks are kind of luring you into an area that you just don't want to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we mentioned, in June, you will be your quote-unquote retirement will begin, but it will not be cold turkey. It will be a wind down, and your successor will come into your current role.
That's correct. And again, I've devoted many years of my career.
Is it going to be hard to let go?
Very hard.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I've had these few months to start really processing and getting used to the idea. In many ways, it's kind of like we birthed a baby, and now I'm kind of walking away from our hospital. But I'm so grateful to the community for the support that they've given our hospital. We've got a wonderful board. Our foundation is doing great things where there's a need to try and reach out and help folks where they are. We've got a very active foundation board. Our medical staff is really great to work with, and then our frontline staff. And when I get out and try and be visible in the hospital, it's not Mr. Ferguson, it's Gordon or Boss Man or Mr. Gordon, and that's what I'm going to miss. But the time is almost there. I will be able to continue to work helping our new person get integrated into the community, as well as working with Jenna DeJohn and our foundation to raise some funding. We're going to be expanding our space on the third floor where we've got our OB labor and delivery area. And so I'm not going to do nearly as well as Liz Ray, as you mentioned earlier, but we're going to try and raise about $1.5 million that Christy Houston has already made a contribution to help get that project going.
Yeah, and you mentioned when do people need to be looking for your successor to be named? Is that in the offing in the not too distant future?
It is. There's been a lot of activity in terms of interviewing applicants initially remotely, and then we've narrowed that list down, and very soon we'll be able to make that announcement.
Has being part of that process to help find your successor, has that maybe helped ease the letting go process a little bit?
I think it has. I don't think it's certainly not the norm that you have this type of a transition. Sometimes it's very abrupt. But in this case, we've been able to take our time. And really what we're looking for is not just somebody that's been in this position before, but somebody that we feel will keep that link with our community and be involved in our community. Because in my mind, we've got to earn the respect each and every day. And when we are taking care of somebody's loved one or somebody's delivering a baby, we want them to be confident in our staff and feel that they're going to be well taken care of, whatever the reason they're in our hospital.
What do you want your legacy to be? Have you thought about that?
I've not thought about that a lot. I have tried to be a servant leader over the years. For me, I was not interested in continuing to climb that corporate ladder. I was very content and felt challenged with the work that we've done here. Again, it's somewhat of a cliche, but I hope I have left our hospital better than when I came. It was a very good hospital, but I think over the years we've really been able to take our hospital to a different level and offer the services that we've talked about in this last hour. Yeah,
and now you and Cindy will get to do more of the things. People may not know you're a big sports fan. You I know you're a UT grad, but you got tickets to games at Middle and things like that, and things right here in your own backyard. What are the things that because everybody sees Gordon in a suit.
Yes.
What about when Gordon's not in a suit, and what do you like to do?
I've got a long-term love for the lake, and so we're going to be spending more time up at Center Hill Lake. Cindy has just taken on the role of president of the Charity Circle, so she's kind of now working full-time doing that.
And you will be her able assistant.
I'll be something. I'm not sure, but I love to work in my yard. I love to swim, ride my bike. And so we have not made any definitive plans. We're going to take a day at a time to get through this initial transition. But as Cindy said, she's going to be glad to kind of get me back for a while, because this has been a very time-consuming job. I think any health CEO. So, and certainly with the advent of cell phones and texting, it's very difficult just to completely let things go. So we'll be planning our next stage of our life.
So in your Center Hill life, have you taken up fishing, or are you one who likes to watch and make sure the lake stays right where it is?
I'm a watcher. I enjoy to sit and float in our boat, and as I mentioned earlier, I love swimming. But we've got a granddaughter that's now just over 1.5 years old over in Knoxville, and we'll be hopefully spending more time getting to see her grow up.
Maybe you'll get to make that trip back to Scotland before long.
That may be a possibility.
Well, good deal. Well, when I think of people in my years of being in this community, which is close to 40 now, you are on the short list of the most influential people that I've encountered in this community, and it's been it's a pleasure to have you on a friends list, and I really appreciate you taking time today.
No, thank you, Chip. That feeling's mutual. It's when you're lived here as long as we have, you really get to have good friends, and I've just been very fortunate to be able to have this position for as long as I have.
Well, I tell you've earned your retirement, and I know you're going to enjoy it. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Chip.
All right, Gordon Ferguson, the CEO of St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital. If you missed any of this and want to listen to it, it'll be on the podcast section of wgnsradio.com. We'll be back again next week with another show, and I think you're going to enjoy it as well. Brian Barrett standing by. He has Rutherford issues. He'll get you up to date on all the weather and everything that's going on right here in the borough on the Big G, WGNS. Have a great day, everybody.